Welcome back. Yeah, it's the president's birthday, George Washington's birthday. February 12th was Abe Lincoln's birthday. So we have this National Day of Remembrance. Most people are home, hopefully watching Newsmax TV, the fastest growing cable network in America. And you see we've added some balloons to the set now because it is a birthday party and we're celebrating the great founding father of our nation, George Washington. But our nation is under attack. And the one thing that kept us sane in these instances, was comedy, where there were no boundaries and there were no rules. And, you know, one of my idols is Don Rickles, right? This guy was an equal opportunity attacker. But all was fair in the land of comedy. And recently, people like Kevin Hart are getting thrown out of hosting the Oscars, so they don't even have a host. It's getting totally out of hand. And one man has taken to ripping this issue apart and seeing if comedy is actually the #1 victim of this political divisiveness. Comedian and director of the Amazon documentary Tasteless. And here's a look at that video.
Way in the 1980s, it was a bestseller.
Yeah.
Wow.
I grew up on these books called Truly Tasteless Jokes.
Oh, yeah, I had those too, yeah.
I love them. They're amazing.
They made the rounds in my school, and it was kind of a big deal.
You didn't hear, or you couldn't just Google it, so you had to look them up, and it was like a little treasure map. And then you'd tell your friends, they would kill, and you'd tell an adult, and they would get you in trouble.
Handicap. It's jokes about handicapped people.
Sarah, what's wrong? Usually after 2 or 3 truly tasteless jokes, you're all over me.
I don't know if you could actually get that printed today. I don't know if you'd find the publisher that'd be like, you know, like a HarperCollins or something like that. Or Penguin Classics.
The entire concept of satire has now been sort of lost, I think, on a significant group of people.
Stephen Colbert is facing backlash.
Night Live writer Katie Rich was suspended.
Filth was coming out of her mouth.
If you stop your analysis at the point where you're offended and don't think any further, then you are throwing out everything good with everything hateful in one fell swoop.
Penguin notably said, if we publish this, the little bird would have to hide its head under its wing in shame.
Is comedy dead? We will find out. Matt Ritter joins us now. He's a comedian. He's also the director of that Amazon documentary, Tasteless. And apparently, at some point, like everybody who was somebody was carrying around this book, Truly Tasteless Jokes, and now you can't even fire off a guffaw.
This was astonishing to me when I actually did the research. It was the #1 book of all of the 80s, to the point where they actually, all of these literary authors didn't want to be on the same label as this woman who wrote these tasteless jokes. They had to create a miscellaneous category to keep her away from the literary top of the charts. Yeah, but now, you know, it all ties together with what's going on in the country. Just, we're too PC. I mean, I got into comedy not to be responsible.
Well, yeah, I want to be irresponsible in my life. That's why I'm a comic.
Yeah, that's
why
we got
I mentioned it in my open, but the minister of mean, Don Rickles, was like the master of this. He could offend at these, you know, I watch a lot of these roasts, you know, from Dean Martin roasts from back in the day, and there were white people, there were black people, there were Puerto Rican people. Every single one, no one was immune to some joking.
So the amazing thing that we found out about this doc was that the writer of these books, her name's Ashton Applewhite. I mean, she is so liberal. She is the type of woman that would be wearing one of those hats at a Hillary Clinton rally.
Right.
And she said, look, that was the great saving grace of these books. They were equal opportunity offenders. And that was sort of what we understood comedy to be. And that when you went to a club, you were exposing yourself to the possibility that you might get made fun of, or you might hear something that you don't like. I mean, Don Rickles would be the first one on Canceled Island if he was alive.
Oh, my God, right?
I mean,
he'd be gone,
president of Canceled Island.
Gone, without a doubt.
Yeah.
But, yeah, you know, when you go to a comedy show over the years, you know, like if you don't want to get ragged on, then you know you don't ask for one of those tables up in the front.
We call it the splash zone, yeah.
You know, and then, you know, if you're in one of those tables in the back, you don't want to get up to go to the bathroom right in the middle of the segment because you're going to bring attention to yourself. But people kind of, even when it happens, people enjoy laughing at themselves a little bit, don't they? I do.
mean, everybody does. And what's funny is if you look at who really are the chief proponents of canceling people, it's people on Twitter, on social media, who aren't even a fan of this person or wasn't even at the show. You know what I mean? Generally, it's people who are like the people who wanted to cancel Chappelle. Like they've never been to a Chappelle show. You know,
Right.
they're sitting there on Twitter because Twitter and social media has given power. Everybody thinks they're
Everybody
important.
else is
Everybody's
doing it,
important.
baby. Yeah,
It's like,
let's jump in. Everybody else is doing it.
I have the ability to get Chappelle canceled, and I'm a nobody.
From
sure.
what I hear, I'm late to the party, but everybody else is checking out the Legally Insane podcast, where you take a deep dive into legal issues of the day. It is kind of insane what's happening out there, isn't it?
Yeah, well, actually, what we've found through the podcast is, you know, everybody thinks that we're in a unique time. If you don't like Trump, you say it's the most unique time, it's the craziest time ever. And if you're a fan of Trump, you know, you go, oh, actually, you know, he's doing what he said he was going to do. And when we look back to the history, we find that really, it's not really that anomalous. There are ups and downs of political history, and just a lot of people just don't know history anymore. So they just are, you know, railing about it's recency bias. Everything that's happening now, people think is the craziest thing that's ever happened.
So before I let you go, also a thing that's also becoming a thing of the past, comedy albums.
Yeah.
You know, in the old days, I remember my parents had those big albums, and you know, you would listen to the comedians on them. Tell me a little bit about your most recent comedy
So I've got
album,
my
40-year-old version.
Yeah, 40-year-old version. I have been laid once upon a time. It's called 40-year-old version because I was a corporate lawyer and I gave that up to do comedy. I say gave up, I mean I was fired. But so it's about that journey of being way behind my friends in life. They all have, you know, kids and careers, and I'm just here trying to save us from the death of jokes.
I feel like most lawyers are underachievers to begin with.
Okay.
Because, you know, I'm like a high school football coach and a Pee Wee Little League baseball coach and stuff. Why are lawyers always practicing? Why don't they ever say we're game ready? You know, where they're practicing law all the time. When's game time?
Unfortunately for me, I was never even practice ready. So, yes, the album is, you know, it's a well thought out album like the old days. It's got a beginning, middle, end, and it really tells a story of my life and a lot of social commentary on what's going on in the crazy world that we're living in.
Fantastic. Thanks for helping us shed a little light on what I see is the decay of comedy and it being acceptable in all forms. I guess, who knows, maybe they got to start putting safe spaces inside all the stand-up comedy houses. But go out there, go to Amazon, and check out the documentary Tasteless, which documents a woman who's quite liberal and believed in equal opportunity, tasteless jokes. Tasteless is on Amazon. And Matt Ritter, thank you very much for joining us. You stay right there. We're going to take a quick break. We're going to come back with Barry Goldsmith, and Frankie and I will wrap it up with some more news of the day and your feedback. You're watching Liquid Lunch. Back right after this.